Hello and welcome to the another episode of the State of Emergency podcast, the newest English podcast in the Czech Republic. And welcome. So so now it's a great afternoon in the Czech Republic at the moment. It's what they call the late summer. The winter has been great. I want to say, where was this weather in August? Uh, the the weather in August was rainy, cold, and it wasn't very enjoyable to go out and be with friends and plan your day or go for a rafting trip or a bike trip out in the woods. But now we got some good weather, and conversation was in the summer. There were some conversations about the wine harvest this year in September, because the vintners were worried that they weren't gonna they weren't gonna have enough hot weather for the grapes to ripen, enough to produce enough wine for this year's vintage. Luckily though, the weather warmed up. Now we're in the middle of Vino Brani. And if you don't know what Vino Brani is, it is the wine harvest, or the harvest of the grapes for wine in the Czech Republic. If you ever get a chance to come out, most of the wine comes in the South Moravian region. They used to have, now, because unfortunately because of the current health situation, but before they used to have uh, maybe they're slowly getting into it. I haven't researched it. I haven't looked into it. But they usually have festivals, wine festivals down in the South Moravian region, for people to go and enjoy the new wines and food and traditional food of that region and traditional wines of that region, Czech wines. And it's a really good time to go with family and just enjoy and just have fun, relax, drink, and be merry. So yeah, what's going on so far in the news this week? As you know, that it's the school. Excuse me. School has started. It's back in session. Back into the classrooms. Children are able to go back to school. They've been tested the last couple of weeks. I think right at the moment, as I'm broadcasting, as I'm live, I think the Ministry of Education and the Health Minister of the Czech Republic are having a press conference today about the current situation, about what's going on in the schools, and what's going to happen going forward. I think they're worried about the rising number of cases that have been reported of the coronavirus, and they're worried about if they have to shut down schools or not again. I don't want to send out any misinformation. I have no idea, so please don't clip this. Don't take it as anything. The YouTube overlords are watching, and I don't want to get censored for this live stream. I think, but I think that's what they're talking about. They're talking about what kind of what's going to happen in schools. I think what they're going to talk about is testing and the results of the current tests that they had, the last 3 tests, and we'll see what they come up with. So we are we're here. We're having a nice we're having a nice time here in the Czech Republic. The weather is nice, and it's good that finally people are able to get out and about, and the face masks have been the orders have been kind of rescinded back down, so that now you can go out freely and walk around without masks, go into restaurants without masks. I think. But I did hear some news that they were going to have some random checks on. So if you're in the if you're in the Prague area, they're going to check you if you're. I forgot what they were checking, but they're going to check on public transportations for something, if you're wearing a mask or if you've got negative test or something like that. I'm not too sure. Um, but yeah, man. We're. I'm trying to get. I know I keep saying this so much. I'm trying to get more consistent. Uh, with the podcast, with the show, and yeah, I was thinking that with the it's a good time to kind of work on and kind of maybe rebrand the podcast in a way and kind of get a new start. The podcast was created with when we were in a lockdown mode, and yeah, so I don't know if there's going to be a rebranding or there's going to be a renaming of the podcast, but I still want to get kind of more consistent episodes for you. Yeah, the last podcast that we did with the guest on the show, we were covering the tornado that happened in the Hodonin uh, city area, the village area around Hodonin, and the travesty that happened with the tornado. And we covered it a little bit on the show, and it was great that there was some live kind of back and forth dialogue with the comment section that we had, and yeah, so you know, excuse me. So I want to try to get I want to get in a constant time frame so that people have a chance to listen, uh, and yeah. So usually I make a live stream podcast, I put it up on YouTube, and then kind of just let it free ride. Yeah, and if anybody's been watching, uh, there was a there was bunch of Champions League matches yesterday that happened and played, and the one that was kind of interesting. Well, I think the one that's interesting that was for me was the Manchester United versus the Young Boys in Switzerland, and the match the match started out kind of exciting for Manchester United with the return of Cristiano Ronaldo getting a chance to play a Champions League match with Manchester United in over 12 years or so, and it was great for him to get on the score sheet so early, and uh, it looked like it was going to be a good match. I mean, it looked like they were just going to carry on and go up a notch. Manchester United was going to go up and get that next gear, as they say in football terms, but they didn't really kick off. They were playing. Ronaldo got the goal in the 13th minute. They're flying high. Confidence is riding high. Then then the red card came, and that changed the whole dynamic of the match. Once the red card comes out uh, for Juan Basaka, that changed the whole dynamics. You have to make certain tactical changes. You have to reorganize the players. You have to make certain substitutions earlier that you might not want to, and then and of course you have that, and you're a man down, so the Young Boys had an advantage mathematically on the pitch, and you know when then the equalizer came. Actually didn't see the equalizer, but then I said, well, that kind of makes sense. They have the man advantage. They're pressing high. They're putting Manchester United under pressure. So I eventually they're going to, uh, if they kicked on, they would get the goal back. Now, what was interesting is how Manchester United reacted to the goal. It seems like after the red card, their confidence went down. They didn't kick up to another gear. They weren't able to get out of certain situations. And then of course, if you see all the YouTube clips of the back pass by Jesse Lingard back to and it was just a free one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and they got the last-minute goal in extra time. But I mean, so it was like a heartbreaking loss for Manchester United in the first group stage match. But hey, uh, you know, once you figure out, what it looked like from the goal with Cristiano Ronaldo. I think the young boys were going to give Manchester United respect. Cristiano Ronaldo, the best player on the planet, arguably. That's a whole different conversation. Who's the best and all this, but yeah. So he got the goal, and I was thinking that Manchester United would get that lift that they needed, that from the past when they got that first goal, they would just fly high and put another goal in, and they would be up 2-0 at halftime, riding comfortably into the second half. But that just didn't happen. They got either frustrated or didn't want to kick on, and so then they ended up actually losing the match. Yeah, so let's look at the Champions League. Champions League standing so far. So let's look at the results from the group with Manchester United. So Manchester United got let's see, standings. Manchester United, well, they fell to last place because they lost, and Atlanta and Villarreal drew 2-2 last night, and Villarreal got a red card as well. That's going to be an interesting group to look at. But because we are in the Czech Republic, and I just wanted to kick off with the Champions League. They've created, UEFA has created a new competition. Well, it's usually said that the UEFA Champions League is the top tier club competition. That's top tier, tier 1, and the tier 2 is usually the UEFA Europa League. That's the top the second tier of football. They created for this season a third tier competition called the Conference League, the UEFA Europe Conference League, brand Europa Conference League, and it's a new league, and it's going to follow the same structure as the Champions League and the Europa League, except it's only with the lesser known teams or the not as big teams, and and there's 1, 2, 3. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 groups. And Slavia Prague is in one of the groups. They're in Group E. They're going to play. They're matched up against the Feyenoord from the Netherlands, Maccabi Haifa from Israel, Slavia Praha, that's us, from the Czech Republic, and Union Berlin from Germany. And if I look at it, in Group D, there's another Czech club, Jablonec. It's a club from the north of the Czech Republic. They're in Group D, matched up with AZ Alkmaar from the Netherlands, CFC Cluj from Romania. Jablonec is from a city up north of the Czech Republic, and Randers. I don't know that team. Randers Football Club. Let's have a look. Randers. Maybe they're from Denmark as well. Let's have a look. Randers. Yeah, they're from Denmark as well. So, yeah. So, so there's. Let's see. Let's look at the groups. So it's going to be interesting that there's 2 Czech clubs in this competition. Now I'm wondering why. And Tottenham is in this competition. So I wonder what the actual criteria is for this league. Because if anybody knows, please let me know the criteria for this competition, because I don't understand why, for example, Sparta wouldn't be in there, or did they have to qualify somehow, or I'm not sure. But it's going to be exciting times. Let's look at the schedule for Slavia. So if anybody's a big football fan, Slavia will play tomorrow. So they play tomorrow. They play at home at Eden Arena in Prague uh, against Union Berlin. So it could be a good match. So all you football lovers out there or sports lovers, get out to the stadium, watch the match. It's going to be a good time. Hopefully they progress, because even though it's a tier 3 competition, still a competition, chance to win a trophy, put Czech football on the again on the map, in a good way. And yeah, so that's some matches coming up. Yeah, let's look at some of the headlines from. So one of my favorite websites to look at, or one of the kind of useful websites that I look at, is a website called shout out to expats .cz. For anyone that's interested, the articles are written in English. There's all types of things that you can look up on this website, from where to eat, where to shop, things for family, jobs, what to do, where to travel, things about culture of the Czech Republic, and so on. It's a great kind of starting tool for anybody who's want to get started, if you are an expat, for example. But interesting enough, there's a headline that caught my eye. And if you ever have a chance to get out, of Prague, Konopiště is a great castle to it's a if you take a it's about an hour away from Prague by train, in the city of to the city of Benešov. It's about an hour away from Prague by train. You can take a car there. There's plenty of ample parking spots around the castle. And if you would like, there's even a little train shuttle from the city center of Benešov to Konopiště Castle. It was owned by Archduke Franz Ferdinand. As we know, Franz Ferdinand is the guy who was shot in Sarajevo, which sparked World War One. And in the castle, I won't give too much away for the castle, because it's always great to explore the castle on your own. But it's expansive. There's expansive grounds around the castle. There's gardens around. There's a moat where you can see a bear. There's a big collection. I think it's still there. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's still there. There's a collection of Saint George statues in part of the castle, and in part of what is interesting about the castle. One of the interesting things is if you take a tour of the castle, there's a Franz Ferdinand liked to collect weapons, and he liked to collect hunting trophies. He was an avid hunter. So if you go through some of the corridors of the castle, what you'll see is a lot of the animals that he hunted. You'll see a lot of hunting trophies, and you'll see like a mass collection of all the armory and armor and weapons and rifles and swords and that he had collected. And some are medieval, and some are like later, more modern weapons, 19th century weapons, and 20th century weapons, and medieval weapons, and things like that. And about this article, which was caught my eye, was that I didn't know about, that there was a shield, apparently a shield that he had collected, or it was in his collection, which Nazi Germany had stolen, and somehow through trade, or through bargaining, or through some sales or transactions, this shield ended up in a museum in Philadelphia, of all places. And so the Czech Republic has been, making making a deal with the Museum of Philadelphia and say that it was part of the inventory of Conopiscia Castle, and they've been fighting for it, or they've been negotiating, I should say, they've been negotiating for the return of this shield to Conopiscia so that it could be proudly displayed back where it belonged in the collection. And I just found it interesting. And the shield was built in this. It was created or constructed in the 16th century, and what it depicts is like this Roman invasion of New Carthage, and it's made from excuse me. And yeah, so in what is it? Let's quickly look here. Yeah, so it's made of wood and linen and gold pigment and gold, and yeah, so and if you look on the website, it's a very 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 ornate piece, and so hopefully it gets returned without any damage. And according to the website, I mean, it is a big shield, 60 centimeters in diameter. So it's it's a good thing that it's going to be put on display, and that it's going back to its place of origin. So yeah, so if it's like I said, it's an hour away to Conopiscia. It's a great place to take the family, friends, just to get out of Prague. If you're bored in Prague, you can have a short day trip there. It's easily accessible, and yeah, check out the. There's more information on the websites, that you can check out, and yeah, so it's things like that. You listen to these stories, and it's good that these things will be brought back to where it should be displayed. Now that makes me wonder. I mean, how it makes the question of how many things were stolen from places during World War II by the Nazis. That's an interesting question. So yeah, I'm trying to. What I'm trying to do is I've been really into reading. I've been reading a lot, and I fell in love with reading again, with because I get to pick and choose what I like to read, and I think that's the best way to for me excuse me, to read and expand my knowledge is by reading books. It really helps me articulate my ideas, and it really broadens my perspective and on my journey to educate myself in a more interesting way, and I retain a lot of the information. And I haven't read a lot of Czech authors yet, but the book I've just finished is a book called Moll Flanders by Daniel Defoe. A lot of people have heard of this book, of course, but it kind of they say it's the second English novel, the second in the English language that's considered a novel. Robinson Crusoe is the first one by Daniel Defoe, the same author. Now it is very intriguing. The book is very intriguing. It's about Moll Flanders. She was born in a prison called Newgate in London, and how she has kids. She's being a prostitute. She steals. She robs and tries to do anything she can to survive. And it tells it from her perspective. and all her adventures that she was involved in her life. And it's a fascinating look into the world at that time in England and around London, and how uh, women had to what women had to do to survive, and what men had to do to survive, and that you could get thrown into prison for almost anything, and you can be put to death for almost anything. So it was very, for those crimes that if you were proven to be guilty. And it goes through her life and all the adventures and misadventures and close calls that she gets put it back into prison. And it's a very interesting book, but it kind of goes on with this kind of repetitive stories towards the end, and kind of draws out a little bit. And it seems like Daniel Defoe, he sometimes it was hard to follow, or the storyline was hard to follow, because of the fact that he would say, like, for example, in one of the cases, her husband dies, and so in one paragraph he'll say, like, for example, he'll say, yeah, she'll say, Mal Flanders will say, yeah, my husband died, and in the next sentence, Daniel Defoe will write, yeah, and I had to live like this for 2 years, and for another year I lived in. So he basically, in one sentence, skipped 2 years of her life, and he just said, he didn't really expand on those 2 years. He just said those 2 years she lived in a poor way, and it kind of moves on. So in some parts of the book, he kind of leaves out details, or no, not like this. He doesn't leave out details. He just doesn't expand on certain parts of the story, which could be more interesting. And he kind of expands on things that aren't necessarily so vital to the continuation of the book. But if for all those book lovers, if you're out there and you like books, please go check out this book, Mal Flanders. It's definitely a recommended read. I'm sure that you can find that book here in the Czech Republic, of course, in English. There's also probably a Czech translation. There's also probably a book that has two languages put together. Half of it, one page is the Czech, and on the other page is the English version of it. They also, what's great for English learners as well, that maybe you might be scared if you're trying to learn English. You might be scared of picking up a book like this. It has very old, archaic type of language that might be difficult for English learners in the beginning. If so, if it don't be afraid. If it seems like a daunting task, if it seems like it's too hard or too difficult and might turn you off, in Neo-Luxor in Prague, Neo-Luxor is one of a big bookshops in Prague. What they have, sometimes, I don't know if they have it in this book, Mal Flanders specifically, but they have books in English that doesn't lose the main parts of the story. So, like, the main theme of the story doesn't lose it, but it's written in, like, for example, they have like a intermediate book, pre-intermediate book, upper intermediate book, advanced, and then of course the actual novel. But it breaks it down into the language without losing the essence of the story, which is really great. I found that really great, so that people can still have access to great books like this, and don't have to be afraid of picking up an English book, because they're available. I think other bookstores like Dobrovsky, there's another big bookstore, have books like this, that or any kind of smaller bookshops as well might have books that are like graded to your level of English, which is great. I think it's a great way for you to not miss out on books that you might otherwise turn away, and you have a great way to improve your learn English learning skills, and you will feel more confident that you will be able to read in English. So please check out those bookstores, check out the books, and yeah, I think it'll be a great way for your language learning experience, so you don't have to be afraid of it. So yeah, um, so I think that's going to I'm gonna I think that's gonna do it for today's episode. But before I go, I want to say a big uh shout out for anybody who's listening. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it, and I apologize that my upload schedule is off at the moment. But yeah, if you have any, please leave a comment down below. Like the podcast, subscribe to the channel, show some support if you like the content. If you want to be a guest on the show, uh, please send an email or a message. Please send a message to the email, and we can have a nice conversation. Nice podcast, and yeah. So thank you all for listening, and catch you in the next podcast. Peace.